Yo, what up, street gods? Eric Kim. Alright, some turbo thoughts for y'all. So, this one is on, I call it American Audacity, right? So, I think the strength of being an American is our ability to innovate and be audacious. So, a random thought I had was like, everyone loves German cars, right? Mercedes, BMW, etc. But do they really know how to innovate carte blanche? I would actually say no. So if you think about like the Porsche 911, right, which is essentially a Beetle, a Volkswagen Beetle turbo on steroids, they're really good at refining certain designs and iteratively making it better, kind of like a Toyota Kaizen approach, where it's like every new generation thing is like 3% better, right? But what the Germans and the Japanese lack is to blank slate innovate something, right? My thought is because I think the reason is because Americans despise authority, whereas the Germans pride themselves on efficiency and mutual cooperation. And it's my personal thought is, I think it actually is more difficult to carte blanche innovate something totally brand new than to iteratively make an old thing better. So even if you look at the 911 GT3 RS, which is a very cool car, shout out to the design team. You know, the aerodynamics they created for it are pretty amazing. But I'm like, why is it that the Germans don't know how to make electric cars brand new from scratch? Like, if you look at all the new Mercedes electric cars, they all look so lame and they're just like uninspired, I think. Whereas, you know, the genius of an Elon Musk or a Tesla, you know, creating a car from scratch was a brilliant idea. So essentially, I think in order to innovate like an American, you kind of need to be like a stubborn, annoying American who likes to question everything. Probably the most important word in our vocabulary is why, and it's a question that kids love to ask, but parents and teachers hate because, you know, it comes off as annoying. But I think you know, when Seneca gets older and he asks me why, I'm gonna try to give him as straight up of a response as possible. And yeah, I think the best way to innovate like an American is essentially just don't be a lemming. The problem though is a lot of Americans are lemmings. America's interesting because I think you know, certainly you have a lot of people who are lemmings, but you also have a small group of people who are not. And so in America, we got more extreme. So, you know, if you think about like a South Korea or a Singapore, everyone's kind of comfortably middle class, upper middle class and beyond. But there's no huge discrepancies between peoples. Whereas in America, like, you got the insanely rich and you also got the insanely poor. Like the world's richest people are all more or less Americans. Yeah, it certainly looks like America, we have the worst problems when it comes to like homelessness and social welfare, etc. But I almost feel like that is the cost of what it means to be an American. Like, for example, could a Jay-Z become a Jay-Z if he wasn't raised in the projects and had such a hard life? Probably not. But then the problem with like that is like, you know, let's say you got 1 million kids grew up in the projects, right? 99.9% of them will probably continue the same negative cycle, but like, you know, one of those people might become a Jay-Z, right? So America favors the tail outliers, the extreme events, rather than the masses. And I think that's why I prefer American stuff. So like even in I forget who said this, right? Like with Canada, right? The like in Canada, 아빠 쌍 아빠한테 줄래? 아빠 GarageBand? 오케이 핸드폰 줄래? 오케이 아빠가 줄. 이렇게 알았어요. In Canada, the goal is to make everybody, you know, middle, mediocre. I try to say mediocre not in a disparaging way. Mediocre meaning the middle, like everyone's just like comfortable, right? But there are no extremely great innovators that have come from Canada, right? And at least the ones that have, they've all come to the States. And you know, like Justin Bieber, I think, is from Canada originally, but he made it here in the States, etc. So yeah, I think to become more audacious, it's so funny too, because Americans are so anti-Jewish people, but I'm like, don't you realize that like 90% of American media and culture is actually Jewish/Yiddish? Like, for example, the word chutzpah, one of my favorite words, it means like audacity, balls. It's a Yiddish Jewish word, right? Similar things too, like I didn't know this as a kid. As a kid growing up, I watched so many reruns of Seinfeld, and I'm like a kid, I didn't even know what it was about, right? But little did I know that Seinfeld was the show about like Jewish Americans and their funny dramas. I think even that show, what, Marvelous Miss Maisel or something, I think it's about like rich Jewish people in New York or something. I'm not 100% sure. So like, you know, Jon Stewart is Jewish. A lot of the famous personalities are Jewish. Like, yeah, pretty much most of Hollywood, most of the famous celebrities and producers are probably, I think, are Jewish, probably Jewish. So yeah, I mean, Americans, we shouldn't like American culture is almost in some ways Jewish culture, right? There's all these other, like, just go on Google and search like famous American Yiddish words, and a lot of these words are actually are quite fun. But anyways, so yeah, to become more audacious, and I think certainly the strength of America comes from the fact that we are so diverse. If it wasn't for our diversity, like even Steve Jobs, right, adopted, his mom was Caucasian, his dad was Syrian, I think, Syrian student, exchange student. If it wasn't for exchange students, stuff like that, we wouldn't have had a Steve Jobs, and we wouldn't have had an Apple, right? So yeah, I think in America, what we need to do is become more tolerant, more open-minded, and just like kind of like Burger King, like let other people have it their way, right? And it's like it's so funny because like it sounds so. Okay, 우리 집에 가서 줄게요. Like I randomly saw a Tesla with the yellow rattlesnake thing that says "Don't tread on me." 우리 집에 가서 버스 줄게요. It's like, don't tread on me. And it's actually kind of a good concept, insofar much as like you kind of leave me alone and I'll kind of leave you alone kind of thing. It sounds kind of antisocial and bad. I mean, honestly, it's more like the political bias is like, oh, like leave me and my guns alone kind of thing. But I mean, I think for the most part, letting other people, you know, do what they want in private, I think is typically a good idea. I mean, I'll talk more about this later, but when it comes to the public good, then it's different. And yeah, and I think even the internet was invented in America, right? Yeah. honey, bus. 오케이, 아빠한테 주고 아빠가 버스 줄게요. 아빠한테 줄래? 오케이. 핸드폰 아빠한테 주고 아빠가 하늘이한테 버스 줄게요. 오케이. 핸드폰 주세요. 핸드폰 어디 있어요? 전화기 없어요? 오케이, 우리 집 가자. 오케이. 너무 좋아해. So I think, yeah, in To become more audacious means to disdain authority so much and like normal social norms. It means to say what's really on your mind and not care about, success or failure or whatever. Like, it's funny because even Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, right? Both of them at one time lived very aesthetic existences. Like, I think Elon Musk, when he was starting his X.com, he and his brother both shared the same computer. They both slept inside their office in sleeping bags, and I think they both went to the YMCA to take showers and stuff like that. And I think Elon Musk tried to figure out how cheaply he could feed himself a day. I think it was $2 a day. I think he ate nothing but spaghetti and like corn hot dogs, the wiener dogs. And even Steve Jobs, right? He went to India to find himself, and he did the weird vegetarian diet, went to yoga, etc. So I also think that in order to radically innovate, you need to learn how to become more aesthetic and actually like live with less. Like, even for me now, like, I'm like 2 Lamborghini in the bank rich right now, right? But I don't own a car. Like, this car that I'm driving right now is Cindy's mom's car. So allowing yourself to be more poor actually is kind of a good idea. Like, I think poor is sexy. Like, actually, a sign of success is to appear or seem poorer than you are. The opposite end, people who pretend to be rich, like anyone who wears Louis Vuitton is not rich. They's like pretending to be rich. Even people wearing Goyard or whatever, like, they ain't rich. Real rich people, they just like don't put in luxury brands and names because they don't want people to jack them, right? They're probably gonna be wearing like $1,000, tagless cardigan with the most supreme of materials, and just drive Honda Civics or whatever, right? It was even funny too, because like I went to my sister's boyfriend's family's house, and they're super rich, right? And I look at the neighborhood. Everyone just has like a Honda Odyssey. Even the most, like, even people who own a Tesla, they own like the cheapest base model Tesla Model 3. People got like old pickup trucks. So it's like real rich people got like cheap ass cars and expensive ass houses. And that's quite intelligent. And all the siblings, they all just drive Ford Fusions. Ford Fusion is actually a surprisingly good car. It's like one of the good things that Ford has put out. Like, in fact, like, let me think about something. I'd probably prefer to have a Ford Fusion than a Tesla Model S. I mean, they pretty much look the same. If I get a Tesla, probably get a Model X used. So you gotta get the Falcon doors, gotta get the wings that do this, the billionaire doors, right? Or better, just don't own a car. And yeah, I think in order to have more audacity, essentially, like, it might even be a good idea to intentionally try to get people to dislike you. And don't be afraid of being made into a laughingstock, right? Like, even when I'm at the gym, I'm getting loud, slapping myself on the face and hyping myself up and cheating in my form. Like, I see dudes giving me giving me the eye roll. They're like, check out this joker, right? I'm like, bruh, don't be jelly because I can lift more than you. Actually, no, a lot of these guys are actually stronger than me. It's just more like, honestly, I'm just trying to innovate and do something fun and new. And then people's like, yeah, but that's cheating. And I'm like, I'm not competing. I'm not here to impress you. I'm just here to get a good physiological pump and have some fun, right? So yeah, and I think the best way to innovate more like an American is to just have more fun, to not take yourself too seriously, to be able to poke fun at yourself, I think, and ultimately have more chutzpah and balls.